Hi, thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm glad to be here. It's been great so far listening to all the speakers. I don't have a lot of time, so I'll get right into it. Now, thank you for the introduction, but I will also say what I do specifically through my role at IE as director is that I help people and organizations achieve their goals or their growth objectives or their growth goals through personal development and training. And that brings me into why I was invited here today and what I'm going to share with you. So, I'm going to be using my story, my journey, two stories from pivotal points in my career to highlight key principles or four key principles about how you can bridge the gap from where you are to where you want to get to. So, let's get started. So I will go to my first story. Years ago, when I graduated from the university, so I studied economics at University of Lagos, and of course, the question that comes up with every graduate is, so what next? I know, yes, I want to get a job that I'd figured out, but it was where and what exactly am I going to do? And I realized that I had an interest being an economist and looking at the way things were in Nigeria, that I wanted to help people. I wanted to help people grow, and I wanted to help businesses as well grow and achieve whatever their objectives were. The question was how. Now I'm a young graduate. I don't have any business experience or business exposure, so it became obvious that I needed that. And that brought me to the next question of, okay, where do I go to and how do I start to get exposure to as many businesses as possible? And I drilled down and realized two industries could help. And that was either I go into consulting or I go into banking. And I chose banking. A friend sent me an opening at a bank. I applied, I got in, and that's how I started. Now, the point of that story is to highlight two principles. One, you have to see the future, right? Some of us here in the hall, unfortunately, I can't see you, but I've been listening, so I know you're there. Some are entrepreneurs, some work in the corporate space. The point is, you have to have an objective, you have to have a goal, you have to see your future and see it in 3D, right? And when you have that vision, then it gives you direction on general direction, even if you're not very specific on how to get there, but it gives you a general direction on where to go. And the next thing is to be deliberate. You have to understand that your decisions have an impact on how close or how quickly you get to your objective, or whether it takes you away from your achieving your objective. So if you look at my story, I decided banking. I went into banking. I decided. And so you must make those decisions and ensure that your decisions are aligned with whatever your vision is. Now, going forward, fast forward to a couple of years as after working at the bank, I invested a lot in developing myself, um, getting skills on the job, exposing myself to a lot of projects, structuring all kinds of transactions, relating with my clients properly so that we develop relationships even beyond just the banking, so I could get advice and things like that. And after doing that for a couple of years, I'd gotten promoted. At a point, even as young as I was, managers were being referred to me to, okay, the person who can help you structure this transaction is probably catchy, so go meet her and she'll show you what to do. In other words, I'd grown as an individual on the role. And it got to a point where I think I just sat down one day and I looked and said, okay, so what's the next 5 years going to be like if I continue like this? It's probably going to be additional promotions, but by and large, I'm probably going to be doing more or less, the same thing and going on and on like that. And I realized as well that there was also a limit to how much I could have an impact on the businesses and individuals that I came across. And so that led me to my next pivotal point, which is where I realized that I needed to leave banking. not just the role, but as an industry entirely. If I wanted to be able to go closer or even achieve more of what I'd envisaged for myself. And so I left banking, and for a year, I went into real estate. That came up through clients that I'd had while I was working at the bank, business consulting, because I already developed those skills, even into trade. And all of this, after doing all of this for a couple of months, I realized that, or I finally understood what next step I wanted to take. And I was able to list it out and say, look, the next thing I want to do is that I'd like to work in an international role where I'd be able to have more direct impact on people in terms of them achieving their growth and, of course, on companies. But how can I do that if this is what I'm doing? And that led me to decide that, okay, I needed to develop skills, and formal education will probably be the best way to do it. And so I went to do an MBA. Now, the choice of where to study now became important because that would have an impact on the profile I was trying to build for after school. And I decided on IE, which is the organization I currently work with. And why did I choose IE then? I did an MBA with them, as I mentioned, but I chose them for specific reasons. One was that for the role I wanted, I needed international exposure. I needed my, would I say, my profile, my CV to show that I had that exposure. I was very international. In my class, there were 45, and we had 30 nationalities represented in class. So I knew that by going there, it was going to be like bringing the world to me. What better opportunity to learn about culture and work um, standards in different countries? It would also give me the opportunity to travel since it was in Europe. And, the exposure as well in terms of the courses and all would be excellent for me in terms of building new skills. And so I went to IE. I did my 1 year there. And upon graduation, I had a better vision of the kind of role I wanted to transition into. And so I defined it again. I realized that while I wanted to work with an organization and a multinational organization, I also wanted a role that was independent, sort of that gave me autonomy. I also wanted to be sure that what I was doing could cut across borders. So I wouldn't just be dealing with Nigeria alone, but I would be dealing with people from other countries as well. And, have that opportunity to travel, to see, to learn, and, help people in different places. And so the first work opportunity that came to me came 1 month after graduation. I also decided I wanted to come back to Nigeria. I came back. The role was going to be international facing. It was great. However, the work culture that they had, as well as the role in terms of independence and autonomy, didn't quite fit what I wanted. And so I mean, after you can imagine my family after spending all that money, why, I decided I wasn't going to take up that role and, continued with business consulting and all the things I was doing before I went to IE. Ultimately, the opportunity with IE came and it checked all the boxes. Now, why am I telling that particular story? If you think about yourself on your journey to achieving your, would I say, professional objective, whether as a business person or as a career person, you realize that, the skills that you come in with are not the skills that are going to take you completely to the very end, right? Which means, therefore, that you must invest in your personal development. Personal development is not something that you just leave to your organization to decide. HR decides, and that's it. You have to have a plan. You have to have your own um, investments in it. And that brings me to something I read somewhere, which I thought was very valid because I did it even unconsciously. And that is skilling, like improving your skills, but in three ways. One would be upskilling, where you become more skilled at the current role that you're doing. You're adding value, you're building yourself, you're learning on that job. The next would be reskilling. That's making you available or developing skills that makes you available for other roles within even the same organization. So those are skills that you build that now make you valid for a promotion, or even as a business person, skills that expand, your abilities on the job, right? And then the final will be outskilling. Now, if you realize that your industry is becoming, or your role is becoming a little redundant, or you can see in the future, like, I mean, I don't want to, just highlighting one of the industries, right? You have oil and gas, for example, where there's this whole thing about going green and, getting rid of fossil fuels and things like that. So there is a threat to that industry. And so the next thing now becomes, how do you transition out of that role, out of that industry into, say, a new business or a new industry? And that's where outskilling comes up. But the point is that you must always invest, set aside investments, you know, ensure you create opportunities where you can do these three. So whether you're reading books, you're doing formal education like I did, you're going for your masters or something, or you're taking courses, whatever it is, but always make sure that you are building up your skill. You never know when the opportunity will come, and you have to be ready to take it, right? And also, finally, in our journey to achieving our objectives, you have to go for growth, you have to go for value creation. And I say this, and it's really important. We find that young people, especially those just starting off, you want the money, you want all the perks and everything, which is great. But I've found that some people get into these kinds of roles and then they stagnate. You're not expanding your network, you're not learning new skills, you're gradually becoming redundant, and it's just because you pursued money over value. And the truth is that as you grow, but in your career, in your business, as you grow and you create value, as that value is being recognized, the truth is the money will come in. And so this is why I always advise people, whether young, even older, you know, go for growth, go for value. If you're able to create that, whatever it is you are pursuing, whether it's money you value and a bit of travel time, things like that, all those things will come in. At a point, you'll be able to negotiate, not just negotiate, you're able to make a demand for what you want, and people will give that to you because they see the value that you're able to provide. So in conclusion, I just summarized the 4 points. And I know there are other things that I've mentioned. There's the networking, there's building that network, there is, volunteering and things like that. All those exposures help. But the main points are these: you must define your future. You must be able to see it. You must be able to see where you want to go. If you don't have that down, and I know usually it's a difficult thing for people to do, but my recommendation is always sit down, take time out. Some people do retreats just to do this, but sit down and articulate. You need to see your vision in 3D. It must be in colors. Like if anybody taps you and says, "What do you see?" You will say, describe it, and the person will be able to see it because you have seen it. And then you must be deliberate with your decision making, with your actions, what you choose to do. These are the things that would have far reaching impacts on how quickly you can go in achieving your vision, or, for your future. You must invest in personal development. You cannot outsource that to anyone else. You must be in charge of your personal development. Now, if you need coaching, if you need help, you should reach out. I mean, you can reach out to me if you want, just to get direction on how to move forward and how to achieve this and what you might need. You might just need a sounding board just to be clear on what your personal development plan is and how you're going to go about achieving that. But you must grow. And finally, you should aim for growth and value creation. Money is great, working from home is great. All those things are great. But you must be sure that you are growing while you're doing all of this. You must be sure that the value that you create, you're creating value, and that value that you're creating is visible to people. So all that things come up: brand development, brand placement, your personal branding, and things like that. All those are good. But For you to be talking about your personal brand, you must have created value and value that others can see, right? So thank you. I know this has been short, but I hope I've been able to share points that can help you bridge the gap from where you are to where you want to get to. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. You can send me an email, westafrica@ie.edu, or you can contact me directly via LinkedIn, and I'll be more than happy to respond. So, thank you. Any questions? You can reach out from the audience or type it out. I'll be more than happy to respond. Thank you.